Hello and welcome, beautiful friends. It's Sapphire here. I know things have been pretty dang dismal lately, but I hope you're all having an amazing day in spite of things. If you're having a less than groovy day, I hope it gets better for you. Before I get into it, please take a moment to like the video if you enjoy it, comment down below your thoughts and feelings, subscribe and turn on the bell if this video resonates with you and you would like to see more like it, and even donate if you feel called. Namaste. Before I really get into the substance of what I wanted to talk about in this video, I want to pay my heartfelt respects to recently slain victims of murderous ICE agents. Rest in peace, Ruben Ray Martinez. Say his name. Rest in peace, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Say his name. Rest in peace, Keith Porter Jr. Say his name. Rest in peace, Renee Nicole Good. Rest in peace, Alex Preddy. Sadly, ICE, DHS, and CBP under Trump continues to tear apart families, terrorize communities, assault, beat, brutalize, and even murder citizens and protesters, and assault, beat, brutalize, and kidnap migrants, both those who are here legally and haven't committed a single crime, and those who are not as well, as innocent citizens taken due to racial profiling as a part of this regime's attempted ethnic cleansing dragnet operations. Many of these people have since been forced into detention camps, which you could arguably call concentration camps, where conditions are disgusting and deplorable, and detainees are often regularly assaulted, starved, and denied medical care. Many of them have since died in ICE custody or have been deported to a potentially dangerous country that they have no memory or living relations in. All of this is happening virtually without any impunity. In light of this recent news, I've heard many people say, "I don't recognize my country anymore." Well, I'm sorry to say it, but I do. This country killed and forced millions of Native Americans off their land before the Declaration of Independence was written. This country kidnapped, shipped over, and enslaved millions of Black people, human beings. This country held them in slavery and tortured them to grow crops on stolen land, and their women were R-worded in order to bring more forced labor into the world. This country unalived and forced millions more Native Americans off their land on the Trail of Tears and onto reservations in a harsh land that they did not recognize. This country fought a civil war, and the bloodiest war in American history, over whether Black slaves could be free or not. This country made Asian immigrants do grueling labor on railroads and in mines for pennies while treating them like trash. When this country couldn't steal enough land from the native peoples, they fought a war with their southern neighbor in order to grab up some more land. And I'm sorry for the interruption. That's just my kitty, Freyr. He's being a little goober. Hi, baby. Say hi. This country invited Irish and Italian immigrants, fellow whites, to come to this country only to make them work in their factories and on their skyscrapers for pennies, treat them like second-class citizens, and make them live in slums. This country violently attacked white suffragette women for the crime of wanting to vote. From the end of the Civil War to the final victories of the Civil Rights Movement, Black people had their freedom on paper, and Black men got the right to vote in 1870 on paper, But they were treated worse than second-class citizens, routinely denied the right to vote in practice, faced mind-boggling discrimination when it came to education, jobs, and housing. I mean, heck, they still experience this, just not to the same degree. Often had nowhere else to turn after slavery other than sharecropping, and were routinely beaten, murdered, and R-worded by roving gangs of racist thugs. This country fought a war against the Nazis, who ironically took inspiration from how America treated Black and brown people, and implemented many of the same practices in the day-to-day operations of their genocidal regime. This country dispossessed thousands of Japanese Americans, including right here in my local area, in the Bay Area, back in the 1940s, rounded them up and put them in camps barely better than concentration camps, simply on the basis of their nationality. This country was then the only country in history to drop nuclear bombs not once but twice on an adversary. This country infected thousands of Black people with syphilis and denied them medical care for an experiment. This country lied about, harassed, terrorized, and violently attacked labor migrant workers fighting for the most basic of labor rights. This country invaded Vietnam and killed millions of their people on a lie. This country tortured and experimented on thousands of people, many of them already disabled or neurodivergent, for the purposes of mind control experiments during the Cold War. This country treated women as worse than second-class citizens until it finally gave them the right to vote, legalized divorce, gave them property and financial rights, legalized abortion, and eventually passed legislation such as the Violence Against Women Act, only to have huge portions of it ripped up by this current regime, but kept the employment and pay discrimination through to the present day. This country lied about, mocked, and shamed gay people and denied them effective health care during the AIDS crisis, letting thousands die. This country invaded Iraq and killed millions of their people on a lie. This country still largely treats LGBTQ+ people and disabled people like second-class citizens. And things have gotten better recently, only for Trump to then once again turn back the clock. To this day, millions of people in this country live and die in poverty and in homelessness, and from a lack of affordable and effective health care, including abortion, which this country recently made more or less illegal in half of its states. Because we're too afraid of communism to help out brothers and sisters in need. This country supports a genocidal regime in Israel. This country is protecting child predators. I do recognize this country for what it has been and what it is, and it scares the hell out of me. It also pisses me off to no end because I know we have the potential to be so very much better than this if we come together, organize, unite, demand, and fight for a better country and a better world. But it won't just fall into our laps. We must organize and fight for it. Until then, I don't recognize my country anymore. It means nothing to me. You were sleepwalking this whole time, not realizing you were standing on stolen, blood-soaked, very much unfree land. However, it is not all bad news. There have been massive protests and backlash against this regime in the wake of the recent murders of U.S. citizens at the hands of ICE. People and groups across the country are engaging in nonviolent civil disobedience and direct action against ICE operations in the communities now more than ever. Communities across the country are organizing and educating their fellow citizens now more than ever. people are getting involved and lending a helping hand in their communities in the context of mutual aid more than ever. And yes, people are getting armed. Abolishing ICE is now more popular than supporting ICE. And certainly, it's far more favorable than the wannabe dictators' approval ratings. And this brings me to the Epstein files. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but suffice it to say that the files have been a very harrowing and very disturbing eye-opener to the horrific and monstrous crimes and abuse perpetrated upon possibly many hundreds or many thousands of young underage, usually female victims by a clique of wealthy elites, including the big old orange gas bag in charge himself. Sunlight is, of course, a great sanitizer, but it takes time to act, and it needs enough exposure, and action needs to be taken. Of course, we now have the whole Iran war thing going on, which is clearly yet another distraction from the Epstein files. To quote Plato, quote, "A tyrant is always stirring up some war or other in order that the people may require a leader," end quote. And to quote someone anonymously, I'm not exactly sure where this originates, but the first casualty of war is the truth. And now I've recently saw some reporting by a journalist for the BBC on some just wild and absurd censorship that's going on even in England, in the UK. It's not even an American programming network, it's British. And they decided to pull his lecture. For what? To spare our president's feelings? This is insanity. Like, this shouldn't be happening anywhere, but especially not in another country that doesn't owe the United States a damn thing. Yeah, we saved their asses in World War II, but that was a long time ago, and they don't owe us anything. Like, this is some 1984 type of crap. I mean, we've seen this about 90 years ago in Europe and Germany, and it didn't end well. Why are we all repeating the same bullcrap? Lessons we should have learned, but memories are tragically short. Also, yes, it is now several weeks late, but I want to give a shout out and just wish everyone a very belated, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Black History Month. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., quotes, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," end quote. Also, the most dangerous thing in, quote, "The most dangerous things in the world are sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." And then in the sports world, you had a few weeks ago, Super Bowl 60 with Green Day, Brandy Carlisle, and of course Bad Bunny, Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin, all together in that stadium and rocking it out, and it was amazing. It all felt like one big middle finger to everything that the dump regime represents, and also everything good about the multicultural tapestry that the US is, but done in a classy way. Dump has an expiration date, although we don't know what that exact date is. And although I am speaking from a position of relative privilege and safety, I must admit that I pay the orange gas bag no mind in my personal day-to-day life anyway. I try to keep an academic distance from all this BS as much as possible, because he has no regard for anyone else's life save for maybe his family and a handful of other billionaires, and he has zero humility to boot while he sits on wealth and power that is the product of So much unearned privilege. This regime too has an expiration date. Fascism, as we've learned, unfortunately does not have an expiration date. It is like a weed that aims to suffocate all the beautiful flowers that make up the tapestry that is our multicultural society in favor of an intolerant, hateful, authoritarian monoculture. It is incumbent upon us all to stay vigilant, stay active and involved, and stamp it out wherever and whenever it crops up. Let your love be louder than their hate. Crucially, let your love be louder than the fear that they attempt to project on you. Do not let the hatred, callousness, and cruelty of others and the fear that they want you to feel harden your heart from giving and receiving love to yourself and to others, and do not let them harden your hearts to giving and serving others, especially to those close to you in your life and those who need it the most. With your knowledge, talents, skills, expertise, time, attention, and most importantly, above all, love. As the late former President Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. When your love is louder than fear, you render that fear powerless. Choose love instead. Not just for yourself and your loved ones and those who look and think like you, but for your neighbors, your community, your country people, for everyone. They want us to feel divided and powerless. Now more than ever, we must unite with a spirit of love and compassion for one another and fight those who seek to instill fear and to divide, subjugate, and harm us, and say enough is enough and stand up for our common humanity. I believe that in the end, love will win. Either love or annihilation, and I refuse to feed the prophecy of the latter any further. Love will win. It's the only thing that can. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. And to get back to Super Bowl 60, that whole show was a celebration of love and what brings us together as humans and Americans. What was there to be mad at, unless you're a MAGA snowflake and I guess diversity is your kryptonite? Right now, we are living through the dying last gasps of white supremacist, homophobic, transphobic patriarchy. This is a multicultural society that is only becoming more so by the day. White folks will become the minority in this country very soon. You can try to fully shut down immigration and deport lots and lots of people. Doesn't matter. It does matter in that it's cruel, inhuman, degrading, and illegal without due process. But I mean, it doesn't matter because the people who are already here are having brown and black children. The demographic shift is happening as we speak, and it is inevitable. But the forward march of progress, the forward march of positive progress and justice for all people is unfortunately not inevitable. I also think MAGA hasn't fully thought things out. They don't fully understand the gravity of the current situation, what they are in for. They have awoken a sleeping giant. The actions of Mango Mussolini and this regime and all of his collaborators and conciliators have energized and radicalized just nearly everyone and anyone to the left of the ideology of J.D. Vance himself, who once upon a time compared Dump to Hitler. If there are fair elections this November, there will be a blue tsunami in every state in this country. But we also need an effective leftist populism, whether you call it socialism or simply taxing the billionaires, curbing their influence, and getting money out of politics. We need to become effectively united and organized in our millions in a spirit of love and camaraderie, again, united in our millions from the grassroots level to the level of the elected politicians in order to effectively curb the fascist tide. If the elections are not fair, well, I don't condone it. There will very likely be violence against this regime and other extremist state governments in this country. I can almost guarantee that this will age like fine wine. So take care, stay patient, and stay strong, comrades and countrymen and countrywomen. This is not a passive process. We must act and we must fight to make it so. The late Dr. mlkjr said, quote, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step," end quote. Also, rest in peace, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was at one time a U.S. Senator, said, quote, "When I came here, I put my hand on the Bible and swore upon the Constitution. I didn't put my hand on the Constitution and swear to uphold the Bible." Commenting on this modern rise of theocracy in this country, the late Reverend Jesse Jackson also said, quote, "I am somebody. I am somebody. I am a child of God. I may not be educated, but I am somebody. I may not have any money, but I am somebody. I may not eat steak every day, but I am somebody. I may not look the way you look, but I am somebody. Never look down on anyone unless you are helping them up." Reverend Jesse Jackson also said, quote, "Hold your head high, stick your chest out, you can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but morning comes. Keep hope alive. Don't surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint," end quote. I feel like that's just such a perfect way to end this video and wrap things up. So I'm just going to leave it there. Y'all stay hydrated and stay blessed and take care. Namaste.